Greetings once again, fellow weebs. As the horrible incel that I am, I have forgone showering and shaving, and I'm here to talk about my favorite series of all time, Sword Art Online. So I wasn't allowed to shower before this. There is not a single anime fan in existence that has not heard of Sword Art Online. Everybody knows if you die in the game, you die in real life. I don't know if that was SAO's, idea, but it's pretty much associated with that. The original telling of SAO that we know from the anime or even from the light novels, if you're an insane person, is pretty much just a jumbled highlight reel of what happens in those however many, not 100 floors that they go through before they're finally freed from the death game. It's kind of an insult to how a timeline works, because it kind of jumps all over the place, and what floor they're on at any point never really matters, right? Because they don't even make it to floor 100 before they even get out of the game. It's at like floor 70 something where Kirito fights what's-his-face. So what I'm here to tell you is that Sword Art Online Progressive is the way that Sword Art Online as an idea and as a story was meant to be experienced. And I'm not talking about the movie, I'm talking about the light novels. If there's one thing you're gonna learn about me through the revival of this channel, it is that I like things that are cozy and relaxing. And this is absolutely one of those things. I select the light novels that I read pretty carefully, but I really like Sword Art Online Progressive. So for those of you who don't know, the Sword Art Online Progressive books and story, there's a manga also, but the idea is it basically shows the story, the full story of what happens on each individual floor of Aincrad. Step by step. Ironically, one of the things that's not shown in every floor is the boss in detail. They just kind of describe what the boss was sometimes, and then they were like, hey, we won, nobody died, it was great. I've only read up through Volume 2, ignore that this is Volume 5. I've only read up through Volume 2 at this point, so I'm not caught up. So to go with my argument of SAO Progressive being the right way to experience SAO, I don't feel like I really need to do much in the way of convincing you that the anime and the books are kind of gone off the rails. I watched all of Alicization and War of Underworld, and I still don't really know what happened. It kind of just in one ear and out the other. I really couldn't tell you what happened and what the goal was and anything. It was just so weird, so strange, and so different from what we knew SAO as from the very start, right? Like, even the stuff from Season 2 was, like, kind of on the same level, right? There was guns, and there was virtual worlds, there was murder. It was on the same level, at least. But Alicization took me on a ride that I was not ready for. And, when I got off the ride, I didn't want to go again, and I certainly didn't remember any of it. That's not to say I don't like a lot of the characters that are introduced in the mainline SAO story, because I do. Like, SAO was my gateway show, as it was for a lot of people my age, I think. I have a special place in my heart for however mediocre those characters were, and however much they have a crush on Kirito for no reason. They do have a special place in my heart, right? Like, they're all very cute, and they all have their own little distinct qualities about them. It's not bad character design or character writing. It's just fine, right? They're all good. They're all there. They all have some kind of purpose. It's fine. But SAO Progressive is absolutely where it's at. And I'm not here to tell you that SAO Progressive is, like, super amazing. In fact, I actually think it's kind of boring. But how boring it is actually contributes to how much I've enjoyed it personally, and I'm going to try to convey that to you now as best I can. Because it's so boring, it has a lot of qualities that other forms of SAO literally can never have, and those qualities make it much more appealing to me as a reader who likes cozy things, right? And as someone who enjoys the idea of the full dive MMO setting and can totally get into learning about the rules and all of the quirks that are included in a full dive MMO type thing. There was clearly a lot of thought that had to go into, all the different rules and the mechanics of the game that aren't really showcased well in the anime. Maybe they are in the light novels and the main story. I don't know. Never read those. Never will. But everything is totally described in really good detail in the books, and that includes game mechanics, which is like, upgrade attempts, skill slots, how the game helps you move around with the swords and the sword skills. None of that is shown in the anime, which I'm sure is how most of us are familiar with SAO. It also includes the different floors. Each floor has a very distinct theme, and the boss and the enemies you see around the floor go with that theme. It has a biome type thing. It has a biome theme, but also like a monster theme to kind of go with it. Like there were, on the one I just read, Volume 2, it was like a forest type theme, but there were a lot of spiders and tree ants, and the boss was a big tree ant. Who would have guessed? And though I feel like the name probably gives this away, the story progression makes a lot more sense, right? Like the whole skipping up floors and stuff, by episode like 4 or whatever of the main SAO anime, they were already up to like past floor 50. So seeing what floor 5 or 6 was like in detail seemed like a pipe dream. Like it was just never gonna happen. But with SAO Progressive, it feels like everything just makes more sense to me. There's even more direct effects of what Kirito does from episode 2 or whatever, where he's like, yeah, I'm the cheater, be a beta tester. So fucking cool. It feels like that actually has meaning, and it feels like the characters actually treat him differently for it. And I'm not talking about Asuna. I'm talking about like everybody surrounding those two. Like they actually treat him differently for it, and even the game's other players that aren't focused on it all treat him differently for it. Like it's actually has an effect on the story rather than, him just like making a statement in the middle, like at the end of episode 2 for whatever reason to come off as epic edgelord Kirito. It's just way more streamlined, right? Even the way Kirito and Asuna progress in their temporary partnership, it is fun to watch develop steadily. It's a very natural process that they, as they start to trust each other more. I told, when I was working on UK, my cover of UK, I was explaining to Mike about SAO Progressive. And one of the things I really like about it is that this is Asuna before she is the poster girl waifu. When everybody, if you're outside of the anime scene, you think of waifu, someone like Asuna is going to come up, right? She's not just a damsel in distress, or she's not just Kirito's wife with a sword. Like, she's got spunk, she's got sass, she plays off Kirito really nicely. It's actually just really enjoyable to watch those two interact, even if they are kind of awkward. The most important thing, I think, about the SAO Progressive books, at least to me, and maybe this happens in the mainline light novels as well, but because the whole story is more streamlined and it all makes more sense to me, it also helps really ground Kirito as a character, right? Because in the anime, he always comes off as this epic edgelord dude who just has all these beautiful women surrounding him for no good reason at all. He's just epic edgelord harem protagonist, right? In the books, they describe his thought process in good detail. So everything he thinks, even there are probably like multiple times where it spends like 2 paragraphs of Kirito's thought processes before he says something to Asuna after accidentally seeing her in the bath or some shit. Like 2 paragraphs, like, what should I do? Like, it describes his thought processes in great detail, and it actually really helps me understand him as a character, that in a way that I just could never have done with just the anime to go off of, right? Like, even going back to the anime after reading 2 of the SAO Progressive novels, I feel like I understand him way more. Like, I watched a couple episodes of what he was doing in the Fairyland, and I was just like, wow, I feel like I understand him almost, because he's not this amazing character or anything, he's not like some groundbreaking character. He's just a dude who likes video games. He's a 14-year-old kid who's talking with a pretty girl for the first time, right? He's just a dude, and that's how he comes off in the books. You know, he's just a dude. He knows a lot about the game. Sure, he probably knows the most out of anyone about the SAO game itself. But he's still just a kid who's talking with a pretty girl for the first time. He's awkward. He overthinks everything. He's just a gamer. Kirito is a gamer. Like I said, the whole thing just feels way more grounded. There's no crazy cheat codes, there's no sisters, no guns, no weird memory loss and starting life over again, no American military raids, no gods, it's literally just classic weapons, and if you die in the game, you die in real life. That's all. It's easy to go with. You can just roll with it, and it's really nice, and there's nothing too crazy about it. It doesn't jump all over the place. It doesn't include these questionable tentacle scenes. It's just fun and cozy. I like it. The name says it all, right? Like I said, it's progressive. The story makes way more sense to me, and it still tackles some of the ideas that SAO in the main story had that are actually kind of interesting, like NPCs with near-human-like behavior, AI, player killers and their motivations, and of course, all of our favorite things, the awkward pubescent moments between Kirito and Asuna where, she's in her underwear and they're sleeping in the same room, and it's all like, aww. You'll fuck one day. Actually, one of the most interesting things in Progressive so far is actually the introduction of Kismel, who is this dark elf who has like near human-like behaviors and really strong AI. It's very much in the same vein as Alice from Alicization. Clearly, Kismel has probably been solved at this point in the books, but like as of right now, where I am, having just finished Volume 2, she's just this unexplained anomaly. Where they did something in the game that probably shouldn't have been possible, but they did it because it's Kirito and Asuna, of course. So it kind of provides this like interesting mystery going forward that probably won't be tackled in its entirety anytime soon, but it's just like it kind of keeps you interested to keep going, right? Because it's not just the story progression, there's also like intertwined mysteries and all those different players on the front lines and their changing views of Kirito. There's a lot of stuff going for this that I actually really like. It's like the most grounded SAO thing that I've ever consumed. The most grounded piece of SAO media I've ever consumed. Like, it's just very pleasant and relaxing to read. It's very cozy. There's not much I don't like about it. Like, it is definitely boring and dragged out, right? Like, everything that goes through Kirito's little brain you're gonna read on those pages. But like that kind of makes it more fun and more complete. It's a more complete experience that way. You just understand everything that you need to. Like, if there's a mechanic that you need to understand, you best believe that by those next 3 paragraphs, you're gonna understand it real good. All of the mainline SAO stories are like kind of baffling to me, Alicization specifically. Too much weird shit just gets thrown in your face. Like, if you think about even just the first season of Sword Art Online, the progression of going from here's death game, you're trapped in here for 100 floors from episode 1, to episode 25, where Kirito fucking has a knife fight with some dude in a parking lot after saving his girlfriend from Fairyland. What? Like, hold on. Let me just stop right there. SAO Progressive takes it very nice and easy. It's cozy, it's just very easy to follow all the way through. There's still some intertwining mysteries. I don't want to spoil much, but SAO Progressive is absolutely worth the read. I can't speak for the manga, but if you can get into the full dive setting, like if you like that kind of idea, absolutely read SAO Progressive. Like, I guess maybe if you don't like reading that much, which I kind of understand. I was in high school once too. But, like, it's just super relaxing. It's a very pleasant read. I can't recommend it enough. Like, it's just very, very nice. Like, it's not amazing. It's not this, like, groundbreaking book series. It's just pleasant. The fact is, there aren't many book series you're gonna find out there nowadays that are super amazing, right? Like light novels specifically. All of them have an element of stupid to them. right? Like that, and that's how I pick out my light novels. They're all a little bit stupid. Like once you start embracing the stupid in anime, you're just gonna have a much better time. But SAO Progressive specifically, there was already an element of familiarity to it for me, right? Like, because I grew up watching Sword Art Online from when I was like 15 or whatever. Granted, that was already a few years after it came out, but that was like one of my first anime. And going into SAO Progressive was like going back to see an old friend that I hadn't seen in like 8 years, and picking up where we left off, and then discovering new ground, right? Like it's just a very nice read, and there's still a lot of interesting things in there, but it's just a much more grounded SAO experience that you can't really have anywhere else. Before I go, I want to address the movie. The Aria of a Starless Night movie was actually quite nice. The right choice was made to follow Asuna instead of Kirito, because I think for a mainstream audience, the story of Asuna going into a completely unfamiliar world and trying to adapt to it is a much more compelling story for a wider audience. Like, Kirito going in and doing whatever it is he's doing is fucking whatever, who gives a shit. Asuna was definitely the right way to go about that movie. And the 20-30 minutes or so of her living in her real life before diving into the game actually definitely added to the experience, because it shows just how much that new world of SAO contradicted what she was used to. She had complete and total freedom, and she didn't really know what to do with it. It was quite a nice movie. And if you needed proof that people change things from the manga or from the light novel to an anime, that's it right there, because the books, they all follow old Black Swordsman. So, but it was definitely the right call to make. Asuna's journey in Aria of a Starless Night is a much more compelling narrative, I think. Or it made for, at least. It at least made for a much more compelling narrative in the context of the movie. The rogue element of the girl in purple, whose name I don't remember, she was actually a good addition as well, although she didn't play as much into the story as I thought she would, and it didn't actually change the main story of Aria of a Starless Night, which was nice. The interesting thing that I learned in the afterword of Volume 2 of Progressive was that the story of Aria of a Starless Night was written by Reiki Kawahara at the request of the producers of the first season of the anime, because they didn't want to jump straight from the speech on the first floor to whatever floor, like 20-something, where Kirito talks with the one chick who dies. So that was actually written as like a story for episode 2, and it was eventually turned into the first part of the SAO Progressive books. Which made more sense, right? Like seeing them defeat the first floor boss kind of gave you an idea of what they were going to end up going through for those next however many floors. So it was the right call for sure. So yeah, the movie I thought was really fun. It followed Asuna's arc nicely. It kind of let her really shine in a movie format, and a lot of the visuals I thought were gorgeous. Like 100%. That boss room was absolutely unbelievable. Like, they were not playing around with those visuals, and Asuna's arc was quite pleasant. I think it actually in the books takes her up to past the second floor to really be super accepting of Kirito, but in the movie she's just like, I'm going with him. Which is fine, because they're not going to show the second floor in the movie. The second Progressive movie actually covers the fifth floor. It's like the Scherzo or whatever, which is book 4. So yeah, which means that's floor 5. Doesn't line up. I know, it's annoying. The other interesting thing about Progressive, right, is that Asuna was chosen as Kirito's little partner. It's going to maintain that group of 2 through, I don't know how long, but presumably for the foreseeable future. That's going to be their main little group. And he did that despite the story inconsistencies, right? Because, even by the time they're up to, whatever floor, and it's episode 5, 6, something, of the anime, Kirito and Asuna are still totally like on unfamiliar terms, or like very much acquaintance terms. You know, they're not really friends. So that is a totally different narrative than we get in the SAO Progressive books, and that was chosen, like I said, despite the character inconsistencies, because there's really no one else that could have filled that role. But it was definitely the right call. So whether you want to interpret it as like an alternate universe or whatever, it still makes sense to me. It really helps the progression of the books. And Asuna, as she is presented in the progressive books, actually plays off Kirito really nicely because she's spunky and sassy. And of course she doesn't know any gamer terminology, so Kirito has to teach her all that, which is actually kind of adorable. But yeah, as I've been saying, if you want to read something nice and cozy and relaxing, and you like SAO, at least a little bit, SAO Progressive is what you want to read. For sure. So this will be the first in like a little series of rant videos where I just kind of talk about stuff that I like, and I'm going to try to keep these semi-regular. So hopefully you guys will tune in to more. That won't be all I post. I do want to talk about some other stuff, like I'll talk about Pokemon at some point. I want to talk about Ruby. Fire Force is ending soon, so I'll talk about that. I might do mini reviews for anime that I have words to say about. There's some interesting stuff and ideas that I've thought of that I think y'all will like. So stay tuned for those. And I'll talk about Demon Slayer at some point too, but just gonna do some little rants and of this same caliber with me on the face cam, and probably holding up a light novel or a manga for you to see, because you can see that I own it, and I do own a lot. Maybe I'll talk about like Mobile Suit Gundam or like Date Alive. Both good choices.